So while I was getting surgery, I was awake through the whole thing. So I got to watch them open my hand up, screw, fix, put stuff, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
Oh,
Like
wow.
this is what I want to do.
Wellness and like the field
You
of
have to look at
preventative
the whole
medicine,
thing.
it's huge.
Yeah.
Right? It's total body. It's not just one complaint and that's all you can do. It's here's how this all connects, and here's how it interconnects, and here's how this is playing into this conversation and what it means long term. I was like having a constant conversation with Ben of going, we're not supporting women. Like, we're saying we're supporting women, but we're not actively supporting it from like women from like the mental load and the capacity and what it means to actually be well. And turns out managing your stress isn't just about taking supplements and doing a couple of IVs and going on an antidepressant. It's something so much deeper than that, but it's also an individual conversation. And so like that question right there, I can almost define it to the day of when I was like, well, nobody else is doing this, so I'm going to figure out how to do it.
It's time to unlock your full potential. Every person has a remarkable story. Join me, Dr. Sura Hadad, on a journey of empowerment and inspiration as we delve into the depths of self-discovery and transformation. Welcome to On Top. Today we have two special guests who share not only a passion for holistic health and wellness, but also a life together. Dr. Ben Connolly and Dr. Ashley Margeson. Ben is the founder of Cornerstone Naturopathic, a thriving clinic in Nova Scotia, specializing in integrative therapies and sports medicine. Ashley, who is his wife, joined him in the practice to focus on burnout, hormone health, and women's wellness. Together, they've built a family-run business that prioritizes patient-centered care. We're excited to learn about their journey into entrepreneurship, the challenges they faced, and how they balance their personal and professional lives while growing a successful practice. Welcome, guys, to my podcast and to my humble home.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
So I'm going to start with you guys. Why did you choose naturopathic health?
You want to take? I'll go first.
You go first.
I'll go first.
Do it.
It's kind of a fun story.
Okay.
When I was 13, so I'd always been interested in medicine, but also just being successful and also just, wanting to have some flexibility and freedom in life. That was kind of, as a teenager, that was something I always found really important.
Yeah.
So I was playing hockey. We were up at the rink, and I fell and broke my hand. So I broke my first carpal bone through my hand.
Yes.
Didn't realize it was broken at the time. Someone had skated over my hand, so I had some cuts through my fingers and stuff. But anyway, it was just public skating. So we kept skating. I walked home. I got home, and my dad said, "Oh, we're going to the hospital."
Yeah.
So we go to Emerge, we get it x-rayed, and there's a broken bone in there. We're like, okay, great, we need to get it fixed. At the time, I was very heavy into piano, so I was doing a lot of piano practice, and if we didn't do surgery on it, this finger was going to be shorter than my other finger, and just with piano, I didn't want it to be a different length.
Yes.
So I ended up getting plastic surgery on it and had it corrected, so there's a pin and plate in there. Okay. So while I was getting surgery, I was awake through the whole thing, so I got to watch them open my hand up, screw, fix, put stuff, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
Oh,
like
wow.
this is what I want to do. It was an awakening moment of like, this is awesome. I am so excited. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
So from that moment on, it was, I'm always going to do medicine. I went, I did all my sciences, loved all the stuff. Came to Halifax, went to St. Mary's and was doing my undergrad.
Yeah.
I wrote my MCATs. I did the co-op program and started working in the hospital at the same time because I'm like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then while I was there, I was also volunteering as well at the hospital on other units so I could just get a feel for the place and all that.
Yeah.
And I was there through the last 2 years of my undergrad. And while I was doing it, I quickly realized that this was not a happy place. It wasn't what I envisioned as being the patient on the table, because behind the scenes, it's entirely different.
Yeah.
It is so different. And it was just a wake-up call to me. I think I was just disillusioned with it. But at the time, I'm like, well, I don't know what else I want to do. Like, I've been so laser focused on like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
Yeah.
So I still wrote my MCATs. I was applying to Dal. Like, I was still going through the motions because I didn't know what else to do. But eventually a family friend said, have you ever thought about naturopathic medicine? Yeah. And I believe at the time my reply was, I think that's all hocus pocus. Or like, that's all. Very science driven. Like, I want to be able to back up what I'm doing. So I started researching it and found that, you know what, there's a lot of stuff here that I can get behind. There's definitely some stuff that I'm not comfortable with, but once you graduate and do that, you can choose what you want to do and what you want to do in your practice. Yes. So I landed up applying and was accepted in Toronto. So after graduating St. Mary's, I went up to Toronto for 4 years and did that. So that's actually how I landed up in naturopathic medicine. I never planned to be here. Wow. It was an entire left turn, but I'm so happy I did. Awesome. Very happy I did. As much as I talked to my friends work in hospitals and doctors and surgeons, I'm very happy with my choice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have any regrets whatsoever.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And Ashley, how did you get into it?
Oh, mine's like a much shorter story. Mine was like on the advice of now an ex-boyfriend's, his mom.
Really?
Yeah. So I come from a background of like health and medicine. My undergrad's in nutrition and dietetics. And my like small town university of Acadia, you know everybody, right? So like that's the perk of the smaller universities on that part. And so when I was in my last year, I was chatting with the president and the vice chancellor and Arthur Irving at the time, and they were asking me all of these questions of like what it is that you want to do and what is the impact that you want to have, and if you were to die in 20 years, what would you have wanted to achieve in that point? So this is like Ray Ivany and Arthur Irving like asking these questions. Yeah. And I
know him, by the way.
He's great.
Amazing.
He's an amazing human.
He is.
And so we were like, I was feeling a little bit stuck because I had written my MCATs. I applied to Dal, and I was in this space where I knew I wasn't going to be able to get in that year. I missed my MCAT mark by like 1 point.
Oh no.
I know. And so I was having this question of like, okay, what do I do? Because I had also been laser focused on like, I want to do family practice. I want to be in a small town. I want to have that impact on community health in the way that I had grown up with. And so boyfriend at the time, ex-boyfriend now, obviously, his mom said, well, have you thought about naturopathic medicine? And my response was basically the same as Ben's, which is like, well, it was a little bit magical. And as much as I love Harry Potter and named my first car after Hermione Granger, I was like, maybe not quite what I was going for. And so Ray Ivany at the time said, well, what do you have to lose? Yeah. He was like, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? And I was like, well, the worst possible thing that could happen is I spend a year in Toronto and I decide I don't like it and I rewrite my MCATs and I come back. Yeah. And I stayed. And from 6 months into Toronto onwards, I counted down the months until I could get back to Nova Scotia because I am not a big city girl. I was like, there's too many humans, too much noise, not enough cows.
Especially coming from Acadia.
Yes.
And got my way through and convinced Cornerstone to give me a job.
Awesome.
At the end of it. And I was like, I want to do this work. I want to do kind of like really ground level practice. I want to be able to work in a space where we realize that wellness is the foundation. Yeah. So not in a, here's what you do once you get sick. Yes. Here's, how you build things in so that we prevent as much as we can. Or, if your mom had a heart attack at 55, well, we're going for, like, if that's the genetics, then we want those genetics to show through when you're 75 or 85. And we want you to live well and live long and live in all of those spaces. So that's my story as it stands at this moment.
Yes, you got good points. We'll come back to it there. Now, I know you were in Toronto.
Yes. Yeah.
And why did you make the move from Toronto to Nova Scotia again?
I loved Toronto. When I first moved to Toronto, I'm like, oh, this is where I'm going to be, or at least in, the Horseshoe, Hamilton, everything through there, because I love the weather. I love how easy it was to travel from Toronto. You can go anywhere in the world from Toronto,
That's
and
right,
I
yes.
loved that.
That's true.
That was actually
Do
part
have
of
to
the
get
hardest.
to Toronto to
Yeah,
get
Toronto
to
or
your house.
Montreal,
That's
right? To go anywhere in the world now. So, but as at first it's fun, it's exciting, there's lots of new stuff, but the longer you're there, the quicker you realize that Toronto is just the same neighborhood over and over and over again. You still got your same stores, your same everything, and it's just kind of a mosaic. And you realize that it wasn't where I could see myself living for 25 years raising children.
Okay.
It was not there. We were living in a condo building at the time, and you'd never see kids. Even in the elevator, you'd rarely see kids. You'd rarely see anyone. But then at Halloween, all of a sudden, there was like 1,000 kids in the building. It's like, where are these kids the rest of the year?
Yeah.
And they're just inside on screens and in a little 1,200 square foot condo, and it's just, I can't do this. Like, there's no way this is where I want my kids to grow up. I want my kids to grow up where there's like how I grew up. I grew up here, and you could go swimming at the river, you would run outside. As soon as you had a bike, you had freedom. You could go to your friends' houses. You could do, like, that doesn't exist in Toronto.
To the playground.
You can go to the playground.
You can
Exactly.
skate on the ice. You can jump in the ocean.
So that was the big move. But with that came a lot of other variables that we had to consider. It was like, okay, at the time, most of the people here were leaving Nova Scotia and going to Alberta for work.
Yes.
Right? This was like the 2011.
Yeah.
So it was like the big drain. It was like, you got to be able, there wasn't a lot of jobs. So you got to be able to create your own job. You got to be able to make your own income. You got to, there were a lot of things we had to consider about that decision. And then also traveling.
Yeah.
You had to be okay with the fact that, okay, if you're going to want to travel, you're going to have to take an extra flight to go anywhere you want to go.
That's right.
Which I know it seems like a small thing, but to me it's important. Like, I love, that is like what feeds my soul. I love that. So it was one of those things where it's like, there's certain things you have to trade off when you make these decisions.
That's right.
But so happy we did. Our kids 9 and 11 now, and we're so happy that we made that decision.
Yeah, you want them to go play outside and do all that stuff. You're right. In Toronto, it's kind of hard.
Very difficult.
Very hard.
Yeah.
So the big city, I grew up in a big city too, and I moved to a big city, and then when I came to Halifax, same thing there. So it's kind of a shock, but you're right. When you have kids, it's different.
Yes.
It's kind of family oriented.
Well, and it's also family. Like, we both, as much as we did our degrees in Toronto and naturopathic medicine at different times, we also were from Nova Scotia originally. And I feel like there's something about the east coast of Canada where, like, everybody eventually always comes back.
That's right. Yeah. They
it's
come
home.
back there.
It's home.
It's home.
Yeah.
It's home. You're right there. So I know you started your business here from scratch.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about it.
Right out of the gate. Not on purpose. So we do an externship in our 4th year, which means you leave the school, you go out in the real world, you find a clinic that you can stay at, and you stay there and you work with them for, at least a few weeks. I did a month, and I came back to Halifax and did that at a clinic. Yeah. And the goal with that too is oftentimes you want to find a place that maybe they were hiring, and they were hiring. So I had applied to them for a job, and they said no. Because
that's in Toronto?
No, that was here in Halifax.
Oh,
So
really?
I come back to Halifax and was hoping to get a job with them, and they said no because they wanted a female doctor at the time. So it's like, fair, okay. So then I was like, well, I guess I gotta
gotta figure this out.
I gotta figure this out. I need to make money. Start from scratch. There goes the game plan. Hadn't even started to work yet, and the game plan's gone.
Yeah.
So I had a mentor at the time. It was my father-in-law, and he had been an entrepreneur for a lot of his life.
Yeah.
So he really took me under his wing and mentored me and helped me learn how to create a business and incorporate a business and all that. And so right out of the gate, kind of came up and like started working on Cornerstone.
Yeah.
Right out of the bat, and kind of like forced into it. It's not that I had planned to do it.
Yeah.
It was super uncomfortable. Felt like it was a big
and you
risk.
Know nothing about it.
No,
they don't
nothing.
Teach you that in school.
Oh,
Nobody
absolute
teaches you
nothing.
anything about business.
Absolute nothing.
No.
So it was scary for sure. But no, jumped out of the gate, rented 2 little small offices out in St. Margaret's Bay, where we are now, and just started growing from there. No staff, no reception, like no receptionist, like just literally grassroots. And just started growing from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you had some days where it was hard to pay your staff.
Oh my goodness. So this came about year 5 in the business, I think.
Okay.
Like we had built a big building. So
Yeah.
we built our own space. So we had bought property, built our own space. We have a 7,000 square foot clinic. We're
Awesome.
probably the largest clinic east of Toronto, this side of Toronto, if not more,
Yeah.
in terms of just space we have available for patients.
Yeah.
And at that point in our business model, again, because no one teaches you this stuff,
Yeah.
we were still very much a clinic that was based on like splits with staff.
Yeah.
So if you have other doctors, you generally work on like a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split and
That's
that kind of
right,
thing,
yes, yeah.
which is great if they're busy, but if they're not busy, then you are taking the brunt of all of that.
Yeah.
And what I didn't like about that split is that it always felt like the energy was at odds.
Okay.
At first, at the beginning, when they're not busy, you know, the clinic owner is losing out,
Yes.
and the independent person's, you know, kind of upwards. And then as they get busier, the energy shifts, and then it's like this imbalance.
Yes.
It's never equilibrium with
That's
that.
right. You're right. Yeah.
So at the time, we were housing these people, and they weren't overly busy, and I was the only one that was seeing, you know, a full schedule.
Yeah.
But of course, we're paying reception, we're paying the bills, we're paying a mortgage, we're paying power, and it was like, the credit card was maxed. We had mortgage payments coming out, and of course, payroll every 2 weeks to pay your staff. And I was not sleeping at night. I would be up every hour worrying about where's this money going to come from by this Friday. And it was just scary and eye-opening. And it was at that time where we invested into getting some in-depth business training.
Okay.
So we hired Dorothy Spence, who we were able to get a grant for. So it was like $20,000+ at the time. But the
Okay.
grant was able to cover most of it.
Okay.
And she came out, and it was like a 8-month process. So she came out once a month,
Yeah.
and she sat with us and really just took us through the motions of like, what is your business run on? How do you, and just challenged us. Like every time it was like, well, why are you doing it this way? Why are you doing it this way? Why, you know, just to make you think. Because
Yeah.
as much as it was about business development, the bigger impact she had was on personal development,
Okay.
of being really true to yourself and just discovering yourself.
Yeah.
Really finding out, like, why are you doing this kind of thing?
Yeah.
So it was through this process that we changed our entire business model. So we got rid of splits because she said, you're basically just being a landlord. Do you want to be a landlord in this
Okay.
situation? And it was never the goal.
Yes.
We wanted to have a large impact in the world instead.
Yeah.
So we changed that model and we went to all salaries. So the people that were interested, we offered them salary or not based on how busy they were the previous year, that kind of stuff. And whether they chose to stay or come was entirely up to them.
Okay.
But since then, we are one of maybe 2 clinics in Canada that run all our doctors on salary.
Awesome.
But changed the energy in the entire business. It felt like I wasn't alone on myself. We were all working as a team. She helped us set up a management team. So we had I didn't have to manage the business all on my own, right? So then we had a finance manager, we had a front end manager.
Yes.
All I needed were KPIs or key point indications, right? On a monthly basis as to the health of the business,
Yes.
capacity numbers, things like that. She helped teach us all of those things to our entire
awesome.
management team,
Yeah.
which took so much of the stress off.
Yeah.
Still had to do the work. Like,
Yeah,
don't get me
I-
wrong.
I
Like, this
know,
is
no,
just
I know, you
this
still
is
do
just
it.
knowledge.
Yes,
Like, you
yeah.
still have to go out and then
Yeah.
do it all.
Yes.
But that was one thing she was always impressed with. Is every month she came back and she was like, "Oh my God, you guys did everything I recommended." And we were like, "Yeah, what's next? What's next?"
Yeah.
But it was through her, that self-discovery, that I actually landed up going through a divorce at the time.
Okay.
But it was just that self-discovery of learning about myself and everything, in which she kept challenging me about.
Yes.
And it was actually my wife at the time and we actually told her first about what was going on.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was what actually kind of brought that on. So hard times, absolutely.
I know.
And there are many different kinds of hard times. Like,
Yes.
we're going through a hard time now, but hard time because the growth has been so much.
Yes.
And like, how do we keep up with it? How do we not burn our staff out?
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
we put our staff first.
Yes.
So how do we not burn them out? Because there's so many patients coming.
Oh, that's where
Right?
Ashley comes.
And this is where Ashley comes. She's part of the problem. There's so many patients coming.
Hi, it's me.
Yeah.
I'm the problem. It's me.
So tell me how you joined him. Tell me what you were doing in the beginning there when you first went to his clinic.
Oh, so Ben and I met via my grandfather.
Okay.
So my grandfather was a businessman, ran a lot of businesses, did a lot of like work, ended up kind of when he retired, he was in insurance.
Okay.
And so he always kind of taught me to always kind of consider like you as an individual and then consider the impact that you have on your wider community. And one of the things that running a business means is that you get to have impact in a different way.
That's right.
And so he was still alive when he went to a Salt Skates Expo and ran into Ben. And basically I was in my first year. He was so concerned that I was like taking this leap of faith and going like, well, I was like, I'm going to cannonball into the deep end. We'll see what happens. He was not a fan of that. He was like, there was no plan. Yeah. For the first time in my life, there was no plan. And so he met Ben, and I think you probably tell this story better than I do because I was not there. But the story that I got was that he marched up to Ben and said, "Can you make any money doing this?"
Yeah, word for word. That's exactly what he said. Can you make this man? Comes right up to me, and I'm like, oh, he's going to talk about like something health related. Yeah. No, not even. It was, can you make any money doing this? I'm like, oh, nice to meet you.
Very forward. Very weathered face. Like, so you can see this like frown lines, and always kind of looked like he was grumpy at the world. And so when I went home for Christmas after my first year, he gave me a business card, and he gave me it for Christmas. Yeah. Like he wrapped it up and he gave it to me and as a Christmas box, and I was like, what is this? Yeah. And he was like, this is a naturopathic doctor. I think you should meet him. He had a very good handshake.
Very good handshake.
A very good handshake. And so called Ben up, went into Shadow because I was like, listen, like I don't do the woo-woo side of naturopathic medicine. I like my science. I like my research. I was like, PubMed is my best friend. What does this really truly look like? Like not from a schooling conversation, but from a like in the field, touching humans hand to hand kind of conversation. And I kept going back. Like I was there in the summer. I'd come back every winter. I'd go back the next summer. And then
he will let you?
He kept letting me. I don't think he wanted to at the beginning. I don't think I really let him have a choice. Yeah. And so was there, like got to witness as Cornerstone kind of grew. Like new Cornerstone when it was just two kind of like room side by side, new Cornerstone with like the first hire, new Cornerstone when the business was built, and I was like, this seems like something that I want to be involved in. And so convinced him to give me a job as a resident after I graduated.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I guess you kind of convinced us into as we started paying our own residents, because one of the things that's big in us is that we want to promote the profession as well. Yes. So one of the big, I wouldn't say downfalls, but just to our detriment is we don't have government paid residencies. Yes. But that is such an important thing, is to have a residency to just see something 1,000 times, right? So we actually put our own money into residencies. Yes. So Ash was one of our first resident. Was the first resident at the time, and then we've since had 3 more that we've put our money in. We have a resident right now, so we do a 2-year residency generally. Yeah. And we put our own money into it so that we can actually help train new docs and get them real world experience. Because like as you know this, school doesn't teach you a lot.
School teaches you how to not kill somebody.
Exactly.
Which is, and so,
and then you go into the real world, you take some continuing education courses to learn more about the things that. Yeah.
And in the space that we're in, it's so wide, right? Like wellness is something like if you need a knee replacement, you're going to see an ortho, right? And that is all that doctor does. And they are very, very good at it. And absolutely, if I need a knee replacement at some point in my life, I know who I'm going to at this point. Yes. Right? Wellness and like the field of preventative medicine, it's huge. Yeah. Right? It's total body. It's not just one complaint and that's all you can do. It's here's how this all connects, and here's how it interconnects, and here's how this is playing into this conversation and what it means long term, and here's how family history turns into it. And so as a new doctor coming out, you're like, that's terrifying because it's so big. So one of the things that, I really appreciate about how Cornerstone has evolved is that it has always still stayed true to the like, how do we give the new docs in the profession a little bit of extra support.
Okay.
Yeah, so they get to hang out with us and be under our wing and probably get overwhelmed at this point with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So now for people who are watching us, tell me the difference between, what, or tell me like the impact that you guys have on people and patients. Like,
I mean, we believe that when people are healthy, they can change the world.
you are absolutely right.
Yeah.
But how do you get them to being healthy?
Oh, that's a fun one.
Here's the
I'm going to
question.
steal this from Dr. Peter Attia because I found he explains this the best. Is he calls them versions of healthcare. So there's healthcare 1.0, which was like way back in the day, right? You just had maybe a few herbs. We did crazy stuff. You bled people.
Yeah.
You did all these types of things with no real evidence for it, and that was healthcare 1.0.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we discovered antibiotics.
Yeah.
Right? And all of a
changed the
sudden
world.
that changed the world.
Yes.
That was the beginning of healthcare 2.0.
Yeah.
And healthcare 2.0, our emergency care is the best we've ever known it.
Yes.
Right? If you have a heart attack and you're near a hospital, you're going to live.
Yes.
Right? Like it's unbelievable, our emergency care. Like
Yes.
people, you don't hear people dying of infections, right? Like people
Yes.
don't die of sepsis generally, and all
Yes.
these pneumonia, and at least if you're young, these
Yes.
things are, our healthcare is phenomenal for this.
Anything that's
Knee
reactionary.
replacements,
Yes.
everything.
Very, very good.
Yeah, your line of work as well. Like it's amazing what you can do nowadays.
Yeah.
But it's still just reactive healthcare.
Yes.
Healthcare 3.0 is really what we do. And this is the evolution of healthcare, is where you have all that ready, but the goal is to not even need it because you're working so far ahead.
Yeah.
You're working 20 years ahead. We're working 30 years ahead in that person's health.
Yeah.
And that's where we're really putting all our energy, is to create that
prevention.
wellness. It is
is prevention.
preventative. And it's preventative. And the difference is, people often come in because something is wrong.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's great, but we're working on finding out, to take the time to find out what caused that in the first place
Okay.
and treat that root cause. And if we can identify that, that's going to make the next 30 years even better.
Oh my gosh, you guys like therapists, psychologists, and health, everything. You're right. When you first said it's overwhelming.
It is
It's
Because
overwhelming.
you're
overwhelming.
looking at the big picture.
You have to zoom out. So we're so good at micro, like our current healthcare 2.0 is so micro.
Yeah.
And we are extremely macro because we have to be, because you have to look at a whole person, because so many patients come in and they're like, I have this blood work and my GP says this, my endocrinologist says this, internist told me this, and it's exactly the opposite of what endo said, and like no one's talking to each other.
Yeah.
And it's like that everyone's so zoomed in on this one thing, right? Yeah. Or like you get a surgeon and they find an A&A antibody and they stop looking at the joint and they're like, well, it's rheumatoid. And like, that's it. It ends there.
Yeah.
But no one's looking at the whole thing, right? So that's really where
So for
we
us, it
come in and
starts
play a
there.
role. Yeah.
Right? Like the complication is what makes what we do. So
Yeah. So guys, give me a life patient story that you guys are proud of, so that just, the audience will know exactly, how things are working in your office. That's
We
hard.
work so differently. So it's
Well, you can
That's
say a
an
story.
interesting one. All
You
right.
can say a story, and Ashley can say a story.
sure.
there you go.
Okay.
Love
My background is athletics, and I always thought, try and be an athlete, or everyone's an athlete basically. And I did sports med. I was on
Yes.
sports med shift in Toronto. I love that stuff. But more and more, my focus has gotten into like healthcare 3.0.
Yeah.
What I hate terms, but like longevity space.
Yes.
So I love working with people that they come in and they say there's nothing wrong with them,
Yeah.
but they want to be the best version of themselves.
Okay.
And that means all levels.
Okay.
So that's often where we'll have, like, for example, local business owner, otherwise healthy,
Yeah.
turning on 50, has 2 kids, roughly teenagers. He wants to watch them grow up and be a grandfather and be able to do all the physical stuff with it, be able to pick
Yes.
them up off the floor, all
Yes.
this type of stuff. So with people like that, which I love working with, we sit down for 2 hours and we go through everything. We go through family history. We go through all the what are their biggest risks that could kill them and just decrease their quality of life, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Like atherosclerosis. What is
Yes.
their cholesterol? Where are their lipids? They're like, I don't know. My doctor doesn't really check. And I'm like, well, we got to dive into that. It's like, well, they'll worry about it at 45, 50. I'm like, no, we need to worry about this now. Atherosclerosis starts way younger than that, right? Like, you don't want to be behind the eight ball.
The whole family has to visit you
The
guys.
whole family.
My goodness.
And then proper cancer screening, like
Yeah.
just all that. And then going through blood work, but really going through, are things optimal? Are they as good as they could be? Not just, are they in range?
Okay.
And then we do a lot of strength flexibility, like how strong are you? How much can you lift? What's your grip strength, you know? All of these things. Can you touch your toes? Do you have to sit down to put shoes on? Like all of these markers, evidence-based markers you can track.
Yeah.
And StatsCan has done a great job. Statistics Canada has done a great job of putting this data together and be like, well, where do you sit?
Yeah.
Because right now, if you come in and you're like, your doctor says, oh, you're healthy for your age, well, then that means as a male in Canada, I'm on track to die at 79 or 81. I'm like, that's not good enough for me.
No, that's
and that's not good enough for my patients.
Yeah.
Right? So you get what? Maybe 4 good years after you retire, if you're lucky. And it's like, that's not good data. The data's terrible for things like this.
Yeah.
And or if you're a
American
female,
data's worse.
American data's even worse.
Now
So
maybe it's even
yeah,
before.
you won't be able to find any data
No,
soon.
that
So
just
that's
won't
just
exist anymore.
disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we sit down with these people and we go through that, and that's like my ideal patient. I love working with that, and it's just, and then we set targets.
Yeah.
Because if you're only healthy enough for your age now, that's not good enough. So my targets for my patients are actually 2 decades below.
Okay.
So if you were in your 40s, this is the hardest part, you're competing with your 20-year-old self.
Okay.
So when we look at blood work, when we look at strength, when we
Yeah.
look at vertical jump, when we look at how long can you hang for, you're competing with your 20-year-old self. And if you can't get there, that is what you're working towards. Always.
Yeah.
Because that means if you're as healthy as a 45-year-old at 65,
Yeah.
Then we're in a
there's
good spot.
nothing you're not going to be able to do. You're going to be able to fly, put your suitcase in the overhead bin, run between gates, get off the floor, pick up your grandkids out of a cradle,
there's
you
a
know,
lot of
like
things that
all the things that
people
people
don't-
aren't thinking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you hit
Wow.
70, you start to
Yeah.
lose 1 to 3% of your muscle mass per year, right? So say if that you're at the lower end of that and you didn't go into 70 with a lot of muscle,
Yeah.
in 5 years, you could lose 15% of your muscle, which means you're installing grab bars in your bathroom to get off a toilet. People don't think about these things and how fast it happens.
Yeah.
And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, the last 10 years of your life are just absolute terrible.
Yeah.
Right? And that's not how my patients want to live anymore. It's like
That's
people
right.
are seeing this as they go through taking care of their parents.
Yes.
And what they're realizing is that's not what they want.
Yeah.
But they don't know how to achieve that.
Yeah.
And that's my ideal patient.
That's awesome.
And then of course on top of that, you always have your general practice.
Yeah.
You know, you got your burnout, you got your people coming in with absolute, you know, iron deficiencies and anemias and all the things that just haven't been caught
Yeah.
because the system's overrun right now. Yeah. But that would be mine. So I know mine is entirely different than
Actually,
Then
we're
ask.
Well, you know, Ben's sitting here and be like, we work in a very macro world. And I'm like,
Yes.
we do work in a macro world, but
Yeah.
we also work as a cohesive team. So
Yeah.
Ben tends to take a bit more of a macro picture.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of patients that start in my office will end up seeing him for even more of that kind of long-term preventative health
Okay.
because for the work that I do, it's very driven by hormones.
Yeah.
And so as women, hormones tend to almost mark every single part of our life, right? So from puberty into like fertility kind of years into perimenopause and menopause and beyond, like for very much the majority of a woman's life, her hormones are kind of defining the space a little tiny
That's
bit.
right. Yeah.
And so a lot of times when we're interacting in the health space in terms of like what it means to be a well woman, we're looking at it from a hormone perspective,
Yes.
right? We use that as our definitions of like, oh, I'm going through, oh, it must be like my hormones.
Yeah.
Oh, my period's coming. Like,
Menopause.
oh, like
Ugh.
I want to murder like 2 tiny humans and divorce a husband right now and be like, oh yeah, my period's in a day, right? Like that makes a ton of sense. And so we're so used to defining our health based off of where we're at in our cycles.
Yeah.
And so that's the conversation that I get to have with my patients. So people come in and they're like, listen, I don't want my mother's menopause. I don't want to be having hot flashes for 2 years. I don't want to be on multiple medications because my cholesterol is now rising and my anxiety is worse and I'm feeling overwhelmed. And oh, wait, I full-time parent and I have a full-time job and I'm burning out, and perimenopause is impacting my sleep.
I'm coming.
Right?
I'm coming to
So
you.
like, so we're supposed to have these transition periods in our life. Like all of those kind of definitions of our hormone shifts are all physiologically normal.
Yes.
But we're not supposed to have symptoms from it.
Okay.
Right? Like we're not supposed to lose 2 weeks every single month because we can't stabilize our mood until our period comes.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to have a decade of not being able to sleep because we're slowly losing our estrogen. Like we're not supposed to use it as an excuse.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite terms that I say to my patients, they're like, oh, well, I'm busy and I'm this, and they're exhausted and they don't want to get out of bed in the morning and they're up at 2 a.m. and they're like, I'm a mom. And I'm like, well, being a mom is not a diagnosis.
Yeah.
Right. So Ben gets this amazing chance to work in this very macro world. I work a little tiny bit more micro in terms of the day to day.
Okay.
So he's very much looking at it from a like big picture kind of conversation. My job is to look at the day-to-day function of whoever is sitting in front of me and be like, how do you feel?
Yeah.
Right? Like, how well do you feel?
Yeah.
And so we think about it like a bank account.
Yeah.
Right? So deposits and withdrawals the entire way through. And we're like, okay, so here's a withdrawal right now. Are we getting enough of a deposit to compensate for that? Where are we sitting? How do we get kind of a support in place that helps in this moment that then allows us to do the preventative work?
Yeah.
Because we can sit here and talk about strength and flexibility as much as we want, but if you're not sleeping, you're not going to do it.
That's right.
Right?
100%.
And then it just makes us feel worse.
Yeah,
because you're like, I have all of this knowledge. I should be using it to my advantage.
Yeah.
My job is to get people to that action point by working in those micro pictures of that day to day.
Wow.
And then because of the setup that we have at Cornerstone, which is very much like every doc on our team is on salary, you see who you need to see.
Okay.
Right? Like, so you're a patient of the clinic, not a patient of a clinician.
Yeah.
And so it's the best part about my job is when I get to graduate my patients into Ben's office.
Oh, that's awesome.
To go, hey, you're good.
Yeah.
We're good. We're steady. Now we get the chance to do the preventative work.
Yeah. So how did you guys divide this
It was
business?
very
Where
natural.
It happened. Happened very much organically.
Yeah.
It was just one of those things, and that we each had different interests. As much as when you were a resident, you were doing kind of everything that we were doing at the clinic.
Yes,
but as you practice and you start to see people, then you start to find your own interests and your own what you're good at.
Yeah.
Right. And you want to play to everyone's strength. You don't want to niche someone into a little square when maybe they're a peg.
Wow.
Square peg round hole. So
Square peg,
it was
round hole.
very organic.
Very organic.
And then, I mean, I think one of the things that we're both very good at and a skill that we both have at a very high amount is we're both incredibly flexible.
Okay.
So like neither of us are stuck into I can only think in this way. I can only do in this way.
Yeah.
We're both constantly looking for like, what's the new data? Where are we getting that from? How does that impact our patients? But also like, how do we work better as clinicians to be able to support the individual in front of us?
Yes.
So there very much is a kind of layering effect that the clinic has, which is organically you kind of start with who you need to start with.
Yeah.
And then it's our job to kind of go, okay, now we know what this 30-year plan could look like.
Okay.
Let's make that happen.
Yeah. So your focus is on hormones in
Very
women.
much so.
Why? Why did you choose that?
It's everything. Okay, and first of all,
I
don't
think
think
I'm a woman.
I don't think I chose it. I think it chose me.
It chose you.
So I was hitting this, I want to say this really cool growth phase in my clinical work right as COVID hit.
Okay.
So like 2019, 2020,
Yes.
I was starting to feel like I was figuring some things out. Like I had seen enough people at that point. I was like, okay, I can see these patterns. And then COVID hit. And every single patient in my practice cracked.
Oh.
So I was working with primarily a lot of women at the time. Up until Lindsay came on, I've been the only female doc at Cornerstone for years, up until our new resident joined. And so I witnessed firsthand, because we had virtual access at that point. I was still seeing patients on like March 30th, 2020. and it was all virtual. It was phone calls, and all I could hear in the background was like kids and a dog and like a partner if there was one. And my poor patient in front of me was going like, I can't handle anything. I don't know how to handle it. I don't know what's happening. I feel like everything is on my shoulders. I'm trying to teach skip counting by twos to like a primary kid that just isn't probably going to finish, their school year. And I have elderly parents, and I feel like I am the support person for every single human, and I can't do it all. Yeah. And so it was that point, I think, those 3 months when we were all in lockdown, that I was like having a constant conversation with Ben of going, we're not supporting women. Yeah. Like we're saying we're supporting women, but we're not actively supporting it from like women from like the mental load and the capacity and what it means to actually be well. And turns out managing your stress isn't just about taking supplements and doing a couple of IVs and going on an antidepressant. It's something so much deeper than that, but it's also an individual conversation. Yeah. And so like that question right there, I can almost define it to the day of when I was like, well, nobody else is doing this, so I'm going to figure out how to do it. Yeah. And that has been, it's what gets me up in the morning for like the last 5 years. It's what makes me show up on the days that I don't want to show up. It's what I think is such a powerful conversation about working with women is you have such impact into how families are supported in their healthcare and their wellness. And it's just, it's these ripples.
Wow. Amazing. I love it.
I don't think I've ever actually been asked that question before either.
But I think too, it even goes back a little further.
It probably
like
does.
In your family, it's always been strong. Like women who did things first, like your grandmother, one of the first women to go to university in your family.
Like I'm a fourth generation university grad, right? So that means my great grandmother went to university.
Yeah.
Like, very
good role models.
Very strong female role models. And like women who didn't give up. They just did.
Yeah. They just did.
They just did.
Yeah. How do you guys balance work and family life? Since you both are working and you have a business.
Well, okay,
I want to preface this.
We got to preface this.
There's no such thing as balance. There's no such thing as balance.
We also have to preface it in a second way too, which is we are a blended family. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like the tiny humans are an evolution of Ben and his ex-wife. Yes. And so we have tiny humans in our house 50% of the time. Yeah. Okay. And so this is not the first time that we've been asked this question. And everybody's like, how do you guys do it all? And I was like, well, we technically only parent actively 50% of the time. Okay. We're 100% there. Okay. But it's important to kind of understand that context. Okay. Like I have listened to podcasts and seen all of these shows where people like ask this woman basically where you're like, how do you do it all? Yeah. And she's like, oh, we just make it work and yada, yada, yada. And then you like realize she has 3 nannies. And I'm like, you have to be so clear.
Let's be open and honest about this.
The context of this, which is like, we have a different capacity than a family unit that is a single parent or a family unit that has aging parents in their home or a family unit that has kids 100% of the time. So like the context of your environment is such an important part of the conversation of how do we balance it? But Ben, how do we balance it?
I always love to say that there's no balance because it's going to go up and down. So you're never ever just in equal. We're not neutral. You're never just neutral. Yeah. And it goes with times of the year. Like coming up in the spring is going to be an absolutely crazy busy time because it always is. Because that's conference season. So we have to go get our CEs. Yes. I sit on a few other boards. They always meet in the spring. So you have to, you have to move your weekends around. Yeah. We have a clinic in Yarmouth, which we go to once a month. So that time of year, April, May, June will be absolutely chaos. And we will be all over North America and people are looking at like, what's going on? And you're so busy. But then summertime, we don't go anywhere. Okay. We keep our travel to a minimum and we really just focus on time. Okay. Like time here, time with the kids. They're off school, doing all of those types of things. Yes. Mm-hmm. Come the fall, it ramps right back up because now you're into AGM season. Yes. So now we have our AGM. You have other businesses' AGMs. That's Ash does a ton of talking for businesses. Okay. So businesses will bring her in at their AGMs. And then it's just, now you're ramping back up. But then Christmas and winter comes and again, we just back down.
Okay.
So it's an ebb and a flow. You have to be, as much as people are like, oh, it's imbalanced. It's like, you don't see how hard certain times of the year are where you're just going. Every weekend you are going. And then you're
Yes.
like, I haven't been home in 6 weekends,
Yeah.
like that
Like
kind of
really
stuff.
home.
It's
like hands in the garden home.
yeah.
I know.
But it's like it's balanced the way the tides are balanced.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's not balanced in this like, and this analogy I give to a lot of patients, but I'm like, when you're on a boat
Yes.
in the water,
yeah.
to stay stable means you constantly have to be doing a little bit of a salsa. If you
That's
try
right.
and keep your feet in one position and you're on a boat, you are going to fall.
Yes.
So much of that balance for us is basically like we look at it like a dance,
Yeah.
which is like where are we sitting, what's working, what's not working. But we're constantly kind of coming back to the two of us together, which is like where do we make sure that we get those touch points?
Yeah.
Because there are days
Yeah.
that we feel like we're ships in a night.
Entirely.
Right? Like we're
Yeah.
in the office at different times. We, as much as we work in the same space, we cannot see each other
100%.
at all.
Okay.
Then you're like one person's, in basketball, the other's going to gymnastics. Then we've
Oh,
got
yeah, I
piano
know.
in there, and you're like, 9:00 at night hits, and you're like, oh hey, you live here? We do this
I
thing
know,
together.
sometimes
Real
we don't
life.
see each other.
Just
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we're
Yeah.
constantly trying to kind of circle back to like where are our touch points. Yarmouth is a huge touch point for us. Like there's no other noise. Like we have a 3-hour uninterrupted car ride each way, which is
Wow.
magic.
I'd say another thing, though, that we made that COVID really opened our eyes to. So a lot of things to be thankful for COVID in our own lives. But one of the big ones was we all sat down and it was like, what are the most important things to us and our team?
Yeah.
And it was at that point that the people who wanted to went 4-day work weeks.
Okay.
So Ash and I went 4-day work week. A number of our staff went 4-day work week, and we've
Okay.
continued that on.
Yeah.
And it's just gaining time. Like the biggest thing we all realized was time.
Time.
Yes.
Time,
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
as you get older, you realize time just goes faster and faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, mostly because you're giving that time to your kids. I
Yeah.
really do think.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And that's why time seems to go slow for kids, because someone's actually giving them time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've kept that. We've made a point to keep that.
call
Not
it
that
white
means
space.
we're not working on our day off.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like you're just doing different things.
That's right.
Right? But it's been really nice to have that.
Good.
Yeah.
So you guys are working together and married.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
does that work? It's kind of hard.
It's great.
it's- you know
It's
what?
great because you can talk business at any time.
Yeah.
It is.
Right?
And you could talk business at any
Yeah.
time. But also like when you and I first met, you were married.
Yeah.
Right. And so we were friends first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. We were coworkers first.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
then friends.
Yeah.
And so we developed, I think, really good communication because our relationship didn't start as a relationship.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Right. So
for
like
sure.
we've created this way of communicating with each other
Yeah.
that is incredibly blunt.
Yeah.
Like we both think in bullet points.
Yeah.
I used to think in stories. Now I think in bullet points. I don't have time for that anymore.
No one has time for that.
Nobody has time for that. But like I think because it was so much was built on something that wasn't tied to like
Yeah.
a dating relationship,
Yeah.
our evolution of how we've worked
True.
together has been a true evolution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So
Aw,
now,
that was my like
Aw.
most amount of touchy feely that I get.
oh. So now there with so many clinics all around Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
What makes Cornerstone Naturopathic shine?
That's a really good question. I think my actual gut instinct is I don't know, because I just treat the patient across how I want to be treated.
Yes.
But I would say the biggest difference I think I notice when I think about that question is how do we treat our own staff? It's the culture of the clinic. You walk into the building and you're like, this just feels good. Like this just feels
people
nice. The people
point it
who are
out.
there, and like
Yeah.
we have such a culture in our clinic with between all our team members. The energy in the space is just, people love it. People are like, can I just stay here?
Oh,
Right?
that's
Like, and when you
awesome.
hear that over and over again, eventually you start to realize that maybe we have something here, but just, yeah, it's, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this, because from the beginning, I've always just treated people how I want to be treated if I was on the
That's how I
opposite
go
side,
through,
right?
And I like that.
It's
Yeah.
it's just being raised simple. Like it's
Yeah.
not There was never an algorithm. There was never like, this is how we're going to do it and be busy.
And
this
people
is,
feel that actually.
I think so.
Yeah, they do. They do. Because even in line of my work, I'm like, whoever's in the chair is like my mom, my brother, my dad,
Yes,
you know.
exactly.
So then they feel it because in your work, they feel how you're working.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a slowness to it too.
Yeah.
Like there's a purposeful, like we don't rush.
Yeah.
Like we take our time.
Yeah.
Like, and it's literally the only person that matters is the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And it was like not anything else.
Yeah, like I don't feel we do anything different. I don't feel we do anything special. I mean, I think the more you do something, the more humble you become. And so it's tough for me to be, oh, we do 10 of these things. And it's just, I don't know. It's just
It's not about the things. It's about the feeling.
terrible answer. I'm sorry.
So what do you guys think in the next couple of years that's gonna, like, since how far you've come, what's going to be different in the next couple of years?
Oh, absolutely. We have so many. One of the reasons I also became a naturopath was just because I love business. I love being able to control your destiny. Like you don't just, that was one of the things that scared me about medicine is once you become a hospitalist, that's it. Like that is your entire career. That is your entire career. You need to be 30 minutes away from the hospital, 3 days away. Like it was just like, that's it. And that wasn't exciting to me. I'd rather take some risk on and live a life of things. So we've really realized that we've maxed out our capacity of one-to-one. And we have so much to share because we've seen what happens to people.
Yes.
Of recognizing that we're not going to just like work an 80-hour week.
Exactly. Like there's no point.
Okay.
We're going to do that. We're still going to work just our 4 days and keep our own lives balanced. But we have so much information to share and help people. We're evolving a little bit into like a one-to-many.
Okay.
So just being able to help more people. With Dr. Ashley's podcast, she's able to share information to such a larger, wider audience to help different professions across North America with things and just having a bigger impact. We're adding another ripple into it. And how far is that ripple going? It can go extremely far right now. And that's kind of what we're moving forward as we maintain our grassroots brick and mortar one-on-one, because that's where we started. We're never going to leave that. But there's some really cool stuff happening.
That's amazing. You guys are young and successful and amazing people. So Ashley, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Now, with women struggling with hormones, stress, what are a few daily habits or lifestyle changes that you can give our woman audience as an advice?
So there are 4 areas that, we talk a lot about it on the podcast and we talk a lot about it kind of as that foundation of health, and we call them your cornerstones.
Yes.
Right? So we've got sleep, we've got movement, we've got fueling and connection.
Okay.
And so those are the 4 areas that when we're looking at like lifestyle conversations with women, what we're looking at is going, okay, so basically this is like a bank account.
Yeah.
Throughout your day, you've got deposits and you have withdrawals. And the goal is to not have 1.5 million deposits. The goal is to have enough deposits that manage your withdrawals over time, right? Like you probably don't look at your bank account every day. No, it's too overwhelming. Exactly. It makes you too anxious. So we shouldn't.
Bills there.
Right. You're like, oh my God, it's withdraw after withdraw after withdraw. Right? But the withdrawals are the things that help you live life. Right? The withdrawals are the like summer camp that your kids are going to, or the like new pair of shoes that you're going to wear to this gala, or the like dinner or the movies or the what, like those are the things that help you live life. Yeah. So the withdrawals are good.
Yes.
So within the context of working with like what it means, the idea of like what it means to be a well woman, we're looking at those foundations. And those are things that kind of trickle into everything. Okay. But then we take another step back and we look at that macro environment and we go, so what does your individual environment need? Okay. And that is a conversation that encompasses mental load, right? Are you the one who's responsible for everything? Are you holding everything in the back of your head? How do we reduce that mental load in the environment so that your cornerstones get stronger? Okay. And I haven't really answered your question, so now I'm going to answer it, which is like, what are things that we can actually do? Yeah. Well, we look at like what the impact of each of those cornerstones is. So is improving your sleep going to have a really big deposit? So then if it is, we start there. Okay. You can use supplements and medications and all of those things, but I was like, those are tools that you use to get to a desired like goal,
Yes.
we have to figure out what the desired goal is first. And so if we're sitting here and somebody's listening into this right now and be like, what do we need to start with? I'm like, get off your phone before bed. Put it somewhere other than your room.
Ooh.
And everybody's like, I know this. And I'm like, I know you know this, but are you doing it?
No.
But it makes a huge difference. Like, we now have research from like 2023 and 2024 that shows that if you are on a device at all, it doesn't matter if it's blue blocked or not, you reduce your REM sleep by upwards of 24%. That's huge. Like, we put drugs on the market at 8% benefit, friends. Like, we're talking like taking your phone out of your room can get you 24% benefit to your sleep, right? Awesome. Are you waking up at the same time, right? If you're having trouble getting out of bed, then sleep with your blinds open, right? Let's get some natural sunlight coming into play. Let's get that cortisol awakening response. Are you living on coffee? Well, great. Can we get food before coffee, right? I'm not taking coffee away. Yeah, there'd be a witch hunt if I took coffee away.
Anyways, I don't need coffee or tea.
Okay, good.
And people tell me, how do you
do it?
Exactly. How do you do it?
Right? So like, we're looking for all of these, but like, as I'm walking through this, you can see like like these are 1 or 2% things. Yeah. They're all ripples. Yes. But every single ripple creates a larger wave. Yeah. And it takes a lot of effort to find the right stone and toss it in and create this massive wave. Yeah. It takes a ton of effort as a human being to like pick that boulder up and roll it to the side of the ocean and toss it in. And like, it's awesome. Yeah. And it makes this huge splash and we love that, but it's unsustainable. Yes. Right? As opposed to going, hey, I'm going to sit on the edge, right? With like watching the sunset go down and throw a pebble after a pebble, after a pebble, after a pebble. And so lifestyle interventions are those pebbles. Yes. But they have to be done with a goal. Yeah. So I'm not a big fan of massive boulders and stones, which, those 10-day detoxes and here's
small
like this.
Small changes.
Exactly. Small things. But the small things matter and they add up. Yeah, yeah. But we forget about them a lot. Yeah.
Well, your phone is addictive.
Dopamine.
Yeah.
Dopamine. It's designed to be.
Yeah. So now, Ben, staying active and injury-free, from your sports medicine perspective, what can people do on a regular basis, whether they're athletes or casual gym, goers, to maintain optimal performance and reduce the risk of injury?
We're all athletes. That's one way I look at it, is every single person we see is an athlete, no matter what, depending how active they are. Yeah. There are 2 key points that I always tell people is you need to, if you don't use it, you lose it. So you got to use your body. You have one car your whole life, and that's your body. You may be able to get a spare tire later on, but that's about it, right? Knee replacement. Knee replacement, exactly. Yes. But the rest of it, if you don't use it, you lose it. So you have to move your body, and you have to move your body 30 minutes every day. Right? I know, as much as people love metrics, I say, okay, 6,000 steps, ideally 10,000 steps. Okay. I'm on a year-long journey. I'm like 18 days away from hitting 10,000 steps every day for 365 days a year. I can tell you, I have walked a lot of airports with my suitcase to get my steps when I'm flying. But doing this personally, you realize how hard it is. Yeah. Because in our jobs, we sit. Yes. Right? Yeah. Like, we're sitting 8 hours a day across from patients, which means if you're going to get 10,000 steps a day, you need to do it outside of that. Yeah. So how do you incorporate that with your kids, with family, with things like that? But you need to move your body every day to stay injury free. Yeah. And then, of course, after that, if you're going to use your car every day, what do you have to put into it all the time? Is you have to put fuel into it. And so many of us are under fueling ourselves all day, particularly with not hitting enough protein. If you are not getting enough protein and fiber and everything else, but the biggest deficit I see in patients over and over again is that they're just not hitting enough protein. Yeah. And if you're not getting enough protein, you're no longer fueling your body, and that's where injuries come in. That's where people are losing muscle mass. That's where slips and falls happen. When they do get injured, it takes them so long to heal. Their brain's foggy. They're cold. When the sun goes down, they're looking for blankets because they're so cold because they haven't had enough protein to fuel. Wow. So those would be the 2 biggest things.
We tend to underfuel and over-consume.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of junk food.
And it's all has no protein.
Yes.
It all
Yeah.
has no protein.
It's
Like
low
you go
protein,
and
low
look
fiber.
at some quick menus of like favorite coffee joints, and you're like, there's nothing on here that has protein.
Yeah.
Places are getting better and starting to add egg bites, but like an egg has 6 grams.
Yeah.
If you need 100 grams a day, how are you ever going to hit that eating your egg bites? Right?
How many eggs?
That's a
Lot
lot.
of eggs.
That's a lot of eggs.
Gaston had it correct. He had it correct.
Yeah.
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 Well, guys, it's amazing having you. I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to say a word, and I want you to tell
I
me
love
what
this.
it means to
Oh, cool.
Love.
you. Okay?
Rapid fire.
Yes. So, Ashley, family.
Everything.
Ben,
Everything.
public speaking.
One of my favorite things to do. Creates the most impact and just, I love it.
Business.
The foundation.
Success.
Not super important.
Awesome.
Not by the conventional
Yeah.
definition
yeah,
of success.
Yeah.
Like my
yeah,
definition of
yeah,
success is like
yeah.
time with the two tiny humans, time with Ben, time
Yeah.
with my parents, not feeling rushed throughout the day. That I care about.
Yeah.
The conventional definition of success,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really.
That's one thing we always talked about, and Ash and I have a conversation, is like define your own success. Don't use other people's yardsticks
That's right,
for
yes.
what they're telling you is successful.
Yeah.
So much in our world is you're told things. That's what marketing wants you to do,
Yes.
including
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
But like define your own success,
Yeah.
because it's not going to be the same as anyone else's. It's all going to be a little bit different.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Ben, now to you.
All right.
What does family mean to you?
First,
Ashley.
fun.
Toronto.
Ugh. Sorry, that's not a word. That's not a word.
That's not a word.
Meh.
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 Nova Scotia for you guys.
Nova Scotia, home.
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 Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for everything. I wish you all the best.
Thank
and
you.
you'll be seeing the whole family soon.
Look forward to it, Sarah.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.